The Biden administration now demanding an improvement in conditions in Gaza. In a letter to the Israeli government, the U.S. Secretaries of State and Defense suggest U.S. military aid could be in jeopardy if there is no improvement in the next 30 days. Well, we are exactly 3 weeks to go until America picks its next president. And one of Michigan's key voting blocks, and Michigan is a key swing state, one of the key blocks there is the Arab American community, and they could potentially help decide the outcome of the election in this state. Just this week, two prominent Arab American groups there made an unprecedented announcement that they won't be endorsing either candidate for president. Michigan, worth 15 electoral votes, as I say, is considered a crucial battleground. Trump won there in 2016, but in 2020, the Great Lakes state went blue, with Biden claiming victory. But the numbers were tiny. My next guest is an Arab American and community organizer from Dearborn, Michigan, which has one of the highest concentrations of Muslim residents in the US. Samra Luqman says that she's a lifelong Democrat who has endorsed Donald Trump, saying this: believe him or not, if there is a 99% chance that Trump is going to continue the genocide, and I have to weigh that against the 100% chance that it's going to continue under Harris, I'm going to take the 99% chance. Well, Samra Luqman is joining me now, and it's good to have you. Thank you very much indeed. Your position, I think, is so important as our viewers around the world get to grips with what is going to happen in the States some 3 weeks from now. Before we talk about the position that you've had and the post that I've just read out from you, and we've had some breaking news in the past hour or so. It's good to have you on because I think your perspective here is important. The Biden administration has, we have just learnt, sent a letter to the Israeli government demanding that it act to improve the humanitarian situation in Gaza within the next 30 days or risk violating US laws governing foreign military assistance, which is effectively suggesting US military aid to Israel could be in jeopardy. What's your response to that?
Well, I mean, first of all, we've heard a lot of lip service from the Biden administration. So a lot of the things that are stated have not been followed through, or in actuality, the opposite has been done. So, for example, saying that you want a ceasefire but continuing to send military aid, or saying that you may withhold it in the future but continuing to send it as we speak, is really hypocritical, and the community really sees right through that. And then on another note, the issue of the election for me and many other voters is not what Biden could potentially do at this point. It's a little bit too little, too late. We want accountability. We do not forgive him for the genocide of over 200,000 civilians. So there is absolutely nothing that Biden can do short of pulling a Jesus and resurrecting all those lives that could make us come back to the Democratic Party for the presidential.
I'm fascinated to hear this. Can I just ask you, do you dismiss outright the efforts that the Biden administration certainly has been promoting in trying to get a ceasefire sorted for Gaza? I mean, I'm talking since November. I've been on that story. The first ceasefire was a temporary, albeit temporary, relief in Gaza, but the efforts have been going on behind the scenes since then to get a ceasefire, a more than temporary ceasefire. Have you just simply not bought those arguments, that effort?
Well, I mean, yeah, so historically, I've seen Reagan end a conflict with Israel and Lebanon with just one phone call. And I know that our president can do more and is capable of having that power and sway to do more. So I don't buy the lip service. I don't buy the crumbs of a temporary ceasefire here and there. And all the while, as they're continuing to send aid that is literally, we are watching people burned alive. We are watching mutilated bodies of babies. There is just nothing that he could potentially say that would make me believe that he's incapable of having called for a ceasefire by now if he had really actually wanted one.
Right. And I know that you're referring to images on social media that are horrific to see, and they are widely circulated these days. It is an out-and-out catastrophe. You talk about 99% certainty of what Trump will do. We've heard him talk about wanting the Israelis to finish the job, just get it done. When you talk about a 99% sort of possibility of knowing what he is up to, doesn't it worry you when you consider voting for Donald Trump and you hear his message on and to Israel at this point?
I've heard many things come out of his mouth that were contradictory, and right now we haven't gotten any specific policies, but he has stated that he wanted to stop the war. Now, what I can say is that with 100% certainty, had this genocide been occurring under the Trump's presidency, we would have seen Democrats stand up and find their moral compass as they did when he moved the embassy. You had over 50 Democrats, I believe, that stood up and said, this is wrong. However, with the duopoly and the nature of politics in this country, because it is a Democratic president, you're never going to have Democrats step up, especially during an election year, and say, what is he's doing is wrong. So even if Trump was to do exactly the same thing that Biden is doing, I have a little bit of hope that perhaps Democrats would find their moral compass and stand up and say that, we would need a ceasefire by now. With certainty, I imagine they would have called for it by now had it been under Trump. So that's one thing. On the other note, Trump, as we know, is a wild card. And we've seen even after, towards the end of his prior presidency, that he soured on Biden. And I can only hope that due to some personality conflict or serendipitously, he solves the crisis in the Middle East. My only goal is to ensure that people are held accountable for the genocide and that it sends a message to him and any other subsequent president that you will not be rewarded if you do what Biden has done. And that is something that I think he is a political animal, and I'm sure he will see that message as well.
And for our viewers' sake, you've written, and I quote you here, there is no greater insult to me, a Muslim Yemeni American woman, or to my community than to assume we do not understand the ramifications of a second Trump presidency. Two Arab American organizations, though, have decided not to endorse either candidate at this point. Last time, as I understand it, back in 2020, you wrote in Bernie Sanders in the 2020 election. There's a possibility of doing that again, given the risks of a Trump presidency, but you've decided not to do that. Can I just ask you why?
Yes, because I follow the polls closely, and with the numbers as they are, if the election were held today with Harris leading in Michigan and Trump, trailing about 3 to 4 points on average, you have about 6% of voters who are voting for other. And if the election were held today, Harris would win. I can't have that. I made the political calculation that I need to vote for Trump, whether I like it or not, in order to effectuate accountability for the genocide. And so that is why I am now not writing in anything. I'm not voting for third party, albeit I do agree with a lot of the other third party candidates, including in my policies and the things that I'm fighting for, even actively to this day. It is a political calculation that I'm making, and it is strictly mathematical in order to ensure, again, accountability for the lives lost.
And you are a one-issue voter in 2024, are you?
With genocide, I think that even if you were to weigh all the domestic policies, the value of human life to me it outweighs everything. It outweighs women's rights, student debt elimination, economy, healthcare, everything that I love and espouse and have fought for all my life. When I put that against human life, it's nothing. It outweighs everything. And so you can call it a one-issue voter. I think that humanity and life is more important than any other issue. So I will choose life over everything else. And if that's a one-issue voter, then so be it.